Hello, students, and welcome to chemistry class online. I hope this video finds you all well and that you're all staying safe and with your families and loved ones during this chaotic time in our country. And I know that this is different than what you're used to, so we're going to be learning and trying together to make sure that you guys are up to date on your educational endeavors and that you're staying safe otherwise. So the date today is March 20th, 2020. So I just wanted to note that so you guys have a sense of the timeline for these online videos. So first and foremost, I want to extend to you guys that I am available via email, call, or text at these numbers. I'll zoom in so you have a good reading of that. So you can reach me at my normal email. I have it here, afabrizio@phoenixcharteracademy.org. And then I am available via 413-437-0899 for calls or texts. I will do my best to get back to you within a timely manner. So today we are going to be continuing to work on our mini QPAs that only a small handful of you were present for the beginning of on that last Thursday, March 12th, I believe, before schools got shut down for 3 weeks. So we are going to be continuing our lab QPA, and I know that's kind of scary having like a lab QPA. How are we going to do a lab when we're meeting virtually? So I will address that a little bit later. Right now, I just want to make sure you guys are up to date and have the most information on what we're doing. So I just want to point to the chemistry standard that we're going to be looking at. It's listed below, right over here. And it really pertains to the gas laws and how different forms of matter, so solid, liquid, and gas, how those and their different forces and electrostatic forces and all that compare to one another. So right now we're really focusing on the gas laws, so how pressure, volume, and temperature are affecting each other. Our objective for today is students will be able to analyze chemical phenomena to determine which gas law is being demonstrated. And I know that's probably a lot for our first meeting together. So bear with me. We're going to go over all this stuff, the 3 gas laws that we talked about. So hopefully right now, those of you that were here for those days, you can kind of start to think about what our gas laws are and how those 3 variables that I mentioned earlier, so temperature, volume, and pressure, how those variables relate to one another. So here they are for your review. So we have Boyle's law, which relates pressure and volume. And don't worry, in a second, I know these are just letters to represent these different words. I'm going to show you what P, V, and T all stand for. As you can guess, it's pressure, volume, and temperature. So for now, just look at this. And this, I also want to note, is on your mini QPA at the top of page 1. So you can write these down, and then I also suggest if you're not immediately able to determine that P stands for pressure, V for volume, and T for temperature, that you write yourself a note on your mini QPA page 1, just as a reminder to yourself. So first we have Boyle's law that relates pressure and volume. So it's always going to maintain this constant ratio. So as you change pressure, volume's also going to change. I don't want to give away how they relate to each other because that's what you guys are being tested on. But I will leave this here as a reminder. Charles' law is relating volume and temperature. So as volume changes, temperature also changes. And then finally, Gay-Lussac's law relates, and I apologize, that is supposed to have a T1 under it. So P1 over T1 equals P2 over T2. I can hopefully change that for you. So again, we're just thinking about how these are relating to each other. And I also want to note that for these gas laws, it's only ever showing us 2 variables, right? So never all 3 variables are going to be tested in these 3 gas laws because we really want to isolate 2 different variables in order to make sure that they're changing how we want them to, because if we're changing too many variables in science in general, not just in chemistry, then it's hard to kind of isolate what is the cause. Okay, so I really want us to note that we're keeping the rest of the variables constant. For example, if we're trying to show Boyle's law, we're going to try to keep temperature constant, so we know that it's not affecting how pressure and or volume is changing. We just want to see how pressure affects volume and vice versa. Okay, that's really important. And as promised, I have what our T, P, and V stand for. So take a moment here to write these down if you haven't already, so you can pause the video. I advise you to do that now. Okay, welcome back. So I hope you guys got a chance to pause the video and write down what each of those variables stand for, just for your own reference. Okay, so now is the time to watch the videos posted to Google Classroom. So as promised, I'm going to explain that how we're going to navigate this online classroom doing labs. I know in chemistry we have a lot of labs and you guys really enjoy that, and I really like the energy and the dedication that you guys bring to that. So I'm going to miss having us in the lab together face to face, but this is what we need to be doing right now. So we are going to participate in virtual labs, so either video recordings of labs or virtual labs where you guys, what we did before with like the PhET Colorado online website that we worked with, where you were able to manipulate different variables and see how that affects each other. So we're going to really utilize the online component of labs during this time away from the classroom, the physical classroom. So right now you need to watch the 4 videos posted on the online classroom. You have on your mini QPA between pages 1 and 2, you have 4 different lab stations that you're going to be looking at. Those of you that were here on that last Thursday that we all saw each other face to face, you've already done most of these. If you need a little refresher, if you haven't completely written out everything, or I know this is difficult, you guys don't have access to your binders. So you guys are going to watch these videos, so take a minute to do that now and follow the prompts. So say what is changing in these videos. And again, I really want us to focus on those 2 variables. So analyze and define what 2 variables are changing in these videos. So is temperature and volume changing? Is pressure and volume? Is temperature and pressure changing? So really look into what specific 2 variables are changing, and then you should be able to answer these questions. Okay? I'm going to give you guys, pause the video now so you can go log on to Google Classroom, watch those 4 videos. It shouldn't take you much longer than a couple minutes. I apologize for the phone ringing right now. Okay, so I'll give you guys time to pause the video. Okay, welcome back. So I hope you guys were able to watch your video and jot down what you're thinking of, so what gas laws are being written. So right now I really want to emphasize that we need to think about the variables, which variables are changing. So the 3 variables that we talked about, if you forgot what those are, flip back to page 1 of your packet or your online packets if you have the physical or online, and look back at what variables we're looking at and what potential gas laws that are changing. So the 3 that we just talked about, and if you need to rewind the video, feel free to do that. Rewind me, whatever you got to do. And then, so we're thinking about what variables are changing in those videos and then how they relate to one another. So how is pressure changing? How is temperature changing? How is volume changing? And then what's happening to the other variable as a result? Okay. So you guys should be moving on to analysis questions at this point, hopefully. So questions 1 through 3, this is going to be on page 3 of your packets, either online or in physical copy. And you are basically doing what we did before. So instead of watching a video, observing what's happening between these gas laws and between these different variables, you are going to read them, decide which variables are being illustrated to you in the problem, and then how they relate to one another. Okay, so you are isolating which two variables are being affected right now, how they're relating to each other, and then again looking back at the 3 gas laws on page 1 and deciding, okay, if I have volume and pressure, I know that it's Boyle's law, for example. So what 2 variables are being isolated, and then what gas law has those 2 variables in the law. So you guys take a few minutes to do that, pause the video. Okay, welcome back. So now you guys have finished most of Mini QPA 1. So now we're moving on to probably what's about to be the trickiest part of Mini QPA 1. So we are going on to analysis questions 4 and 5. So again, you are determining what variables are present, part 1. So these are math problems that we talked about that I know we all enjoyed so much. So really putting these gas laws to use mathematically. So they're ratios, how different variables relate to one another, and you're putting that together mathematically given specific numbers and specific units of whatever we're changing. So first and foremost, we're always determining what variables are present. So what variables is it telling us about? Are we talking about pressure? Are we talking about temperature? Are we talking about gas? Gas volume, I'm sorry, I misspoke. So gas volume, so what are we talking about? And then you are going to determine which gas law explains these 2 variables that the problem is giving us. So if it's giving us temperature and pressure, we know that it's Gay-Lussac's law, for example. So you're really isolating, again, those variables and determining what law is being present. So finally, you're going to plug the numbers into the gas law and solve. So similar to what we did in class a couple of days ago, and I can create a video on this, either going over it as a lesson or in our live sessions where you guys ask questions and we have office hours, basically, virtual office hours. Sorry, my cat is making an appearance right now. So you are similar to what we did in similar to what we did in class. I apologize, misspoke. So similar to what we did in class, you are deciding what they give us. So what do we know? What is the problem telling us? It should tell us 3 out of the 4 variables that we need to plug it in for one of these gas laws. Then you're deciding, okay, what does it want us to solve? So what are we solving for? And finally, you're going to say what equation you use and then plug in the numbers for the equation, isolate the one variable that you're solving for, and use your calculator to solve. And again, make sure we're using units. So I'm not going over this in too much detail with you guys because, again, this is a mini QPA, so I want to see what you know, not being able to replicate what I do. But if we are still confused about this, like I said, I can make another lesson on it if that's something that we're struggling with, that we feel that we need extra help with, or we can talk about it in the online classes. And that brings us to the end of our lesson. So a look ahead for Monday, March 23rd. We are going to be moving on to the rest of our unit. So we're going to be talking about how the rate of reactions is affected by different variables. So how it's affected by temperature, how it's affected by concentration of the materials that we're using, of the reactants, how it's affected by catalysts, and how it's affected by pH. I'm really excited about that. I hope you guys are too. And finally, again, I cannot reiterate this enough. If you have any questions or concerns at all, please reach out to me via email, call, or text. Here it is again. If you need to pause it, write it down. I'm available. And again, I'm going to try to get back to you guys as soon as possible. So I'm glad you guys made it to the end of the video. Great job. I'm really proud of you, and you guys should be proud of yourselves. This is a really difficult time for everyone. And I know that you guys have a lot on your plates, and I'm really impressed that you're here continuing your education. And from the amount of emails that I've already gotten from people and different work being submitted, I know that you guys are working during this time. So I really appreciate you, and I'll see you next time for our online class or our live session.